When three loud bikers surrounded an old black man at a gas station, they thought he was just another easy target, but within seconds, they realized they picked the wrong man. What happened next will leave you speechless. The sun hung low over the Carolina horizon as Raymond Carter pulled his dusty Chevy Silverado into the faded parking lot of a roadside gas station. The cracked pavement reflected the heat, shimmering like a mirage. It was supposed to be a quick stop, top off the tank, grab a water, and finish the last stretch home to Fayetteville. Raymond was quiet by nature, always had been. He didn't like trouble, but trouble had a way of finding men like him, black, disciplined, and unbothered by noise. Dressed in a simple flannel shirt and jeans, he looked like any working-class man, but the posture told another story. Shoulders back, eyes steady, calm but alert. He stepped out of the truck, the creak of the door loud in the stillness. The smell of gasoline hung thick in the air. Across the lot, a trio of Harley-Davidsons thundered in, their riders loud and careless. One had a Confederate flag bandana tied around his neck. Another had a skull ring the size of a bottle cap. They parked at an angle, revving their engines unnecessarily, drawing attention they hadn't yet earned. Raymond paid them no mind. He began pumping gas, his mind drifting to the garden he'd been working on all spring. He wanted to finish it before his granddaughter's birthday. A peaceful thought, but the bikers had noticed him. "Hey, old man," one called out. "You sure you're in the right place?" Raymond didn't flinch. He just looked over, expression flat. Calm, but behind his eyes, something old stirred. Not anger, not fear, just readiness. He'd seen this before. The posturing, the noise. They had no idea who they were talking to. And they were about to find out. The biker who'd spoken stepped forward. He was tall, broad, with sunburnt skin and cruel eyes. His patch read, "Ridge Dogs, Mick." The other two stayed near the bikes, snickering like sidekicks in a bad movie. Raymond didn't move. He finished fueling and calmly returned the nozzle. His hands were steady, his stance unmoved. He didn't answer immediately. That silence, it unnerved the loud ones. "What, cat got your tongue?" The biker sneered. Raymond finally turned, his voice low but firm. "I'm just filling up. Not interested in company." The biker scoffed. "Oh, you got some attitude." "I like that." The second biker, shorter and wiry, took a swig from a beer can. "Guy thinks he's better than us." Raymond made eye contact, but didn't say a word. He knew how this game worked. Egg them on, and they escalate. Stay calm, and they trip on their own pride. The gas station attendant, a young man barely out of high school, watched nervously from inside. He could see something was off, but he also sensed something strange about Raymond. The man looked completely unbothered, like he'd seen this movie 1,000 times before. "Tell you what," the tall biker grinned. "Why don't you say sorry for disrespecting us, and we'll let you get back to your little gardening trip?" Raymond blinked slowly. "I don't apologize to cowards." The grins faded. A chill crept into the air. "You're gonna regret that," the tall one hissed. Raymond stepped forward, not in aggression but in assertion. "No," he said, eyes locked. "You will." Raymond's body shifted ever so slightly. Most wouldn't notice it. The subtle turn of a shoulder, the way his left foot slid half an inch behind his right. But the position wasn't random. It was intentional, balanced, grounded. His breathing slowed. He scanned the angles, bikers to the left, gas pumps to the right, open lane behind him. All within range, all manageable. He wasn't afraid. His mind clicked into training mode. Not recent training, but old muscle memory, buried deep from a life before retirement. Iraq, Bosnia, Somalia. 20 years as a ranger. The tattoos beneath his sleeves weren't for show. Each one was earned. Each one told a story. But these men? They didn't know that. They saw an old black man with grey at his temples and calm in his voice. And they mistook that calm for weakness. "Let's teach him a lesson," the wiry one said, stepping forward. Raymond's hands stayed at his sides, open, relaxed. "I won't throw first," he said quietly, "but I promise I'll throw last." The lead biker didn't wait. He lunged forward, swinging an open hand toward Raymond's chest. It never connected. Raymond moved like wind through grass, smooth, precise. He caught the man's wrist mid-air, twisted it downward, and with one controlled motion dropped him to a knee. The biker gasped in pain, stunned. Raymond let go instantly. "I warned you," he said. The others froze. For the first time they realized they weren't in control. The biker clutched his wrist, gritting his teeth as he stumbled back. His pride was hurt more than anything else. He shot a look at his crew, embarrassed. Raymond didn't advance. He simply stood tall, posture centered, gaze unwavering. "You all right, Bear?" the wiry biker called, inching closer. Bear grunted, standing up with effort. "He got lucky," he spat. "No," Raymond said, calm as ever. "You got reckless." The youngest biker, barely more than a kid, looked uncertain now. His tough guy smirk was gone. He fidgeted with the silver chain around his belt. Raymond turned slightly, aware of his position. No one behind him. No weapons in his hands. Just instinct. Bear stepped forward again, angrier now, his fists clenched, jaw tight. "I don't care who you think you are. You don't get to show us up like that." Raymond nodded slowly. "Then try again." Bear lunged, this time with a full punch. But again, he was too slow. Raymond sidestepped, swept the man's leg with surgical precision, and Bear dropped to the pavement. Hard. His back slapped the concrete, air forced from his lungs. The kid let out a startled, "Whoa!" Raymond didn't move. He looked down at Bear, chest rising and falling fast. "That's two," Raymond said. "Do you want a third?" Silence. Inside the gas station, the young attendant picked up the phone. The phone line buzzed once, then connected. 911, what's your emergency? The attendant spoke low, eyeing the parking lot. "There's about to be a fight outside. 3 bikers, one already tried to hit an older guy. But, the old guy's winning." The dispatcher paused. "Is anyone injured?" "Not him," the clerk said. "He hasn't even broken a sweat." Outside, Raymond stood like a statue, unbothered. Bear was still catching his breath on the pavement. The other two now exchanged glances, uncertain, quiet. Raymond looked at the kid biker. "You don't want this." I didn't sign up for this," he muttered. The wiry biker stepped forward. He seemed less reckless, more calculating than Bear. He cracked his knuckles. "You're fast, old man, but let's see how you handle 2 at once." Raymond didn't blink. "You're welcome to try." But something changed in the air, an invisible shift. The biker noticed how Raymond didn't move like someone trying to win a fight. He moved like someone trained to end one, and that realization sank in. The clerk stayed on the phone. "I think he used to be military, or something more. He's not just defending himself. He's trained." "Units are en route," the dispatcher replied. The kid biker whispered, "We should bounce." But his partner wasn't listening. He had something to prove. The wiry biker circled slowly, eyes darting from Raymond's arms to his feet. He was looking for an opening. Raymond gave him none. "I'll admit," the biker said, "you got moves, but every man's got a limit." Raymond's voice was low. "And yours is about 10 seconds away." The biker swung. It wasn't wild like Bear's. It was fast, tight, practiced. He probably fought in bars before. But Raymond had seen better, much better. He ducked the punch, stepped inside the man's range, and used his opponent's momentum against him. A sharp elbow to the chest knocked the wind out of the biker. Then a simple twist, wrist to shoulder, and the man dropped to the pavement with a shout. He rolled over, coughing, gasping. Raymond stepped back, composed, not gloating, just done. 3 men now sat or lay on the ground, none seriously injured, but all shocked. "You fight like some kind of ghost," the kid whispered. Raymond turned to him slowly. "Son, I don't want to hurt you." "I know," the kid said, "and that's the only reason I'm still standing." From the distance, sirens began to wail. Red and blue lights flashed across the gas station lot as a sheriff's cruiser rolled in, dust swirling behind it. Another car followed seconds later. The bikers didn't run. They couldn't. Not after what had just happened. The lead deputy stepped out, hand on his belt. His eyes swept across the scene. 3 bruised men on the ground. 1 calm man standing with hands at his sides. "What's going on here?" the deputy asked. The clerk emerged from inside. They tried to mess with him, but he didn't even raise his voice. Raymond didn't move, just stood tall, giving a slight nod. The younger officer leaned closer to his partner. "He's military. Has to be." "Not just military," the lead deputy said quietly. "Trained, disciplined." He approached Raymond. "Sir, everything all right?" "I'm fine," Raymond answered. "They made a mistake." The bikers didn't argue, not even Bear. The sirens faded, but the silence that remained was louder than any engine, because every man there knew they had picked the wrong one. Just when it seemed like the confrontation had ended, the low rumble of more motorcycles echoed from the highway. 5 more bikers pulled in, big men with leather jackets and smug grins. They were friends of Chet and his crew, drawn by a group text. One of them dismounted and cracked his knuckles, scanning the scene. Raymond stood between the bikes and his truck, arms folded. He didn't move an inch. "You still here, old man?" the new guy growled. "Must have a death wish." At this point, most men would have backed down or gotten back in their truck. But Raymond wasn't most men. He calmly pulled his phone out and made a single call. Short, precise, no panic. Then he turned to the bikers. "If you walk away now, no one has to get hurt." They laughed, loud and hard, but they didn't notice the security camera blinking red just above the gas station door, or the quiet silver SUV that had just pulled into the lot. Help was on the way, and not the kind the bikers expected. The gas station door chimed as an older woman stepped out, Ms. Jenkins, the owner. She was tough as nails and had seen Raymond around for years. She noticed the situation immediately. "Raymond, you all right?" "I'm fine, Mum," he said politely, still calm. The bikers snickered. "This your grandma?" Miss Jenkins didn't flinch. Instead, she pulled out her cell and began filming. One of the bikers marched toward her. "You think that phone's gonna help?" Raymond's voice cut through the air. "You take one more step toward her, you'll regret it." And just like that, movement. A voice shouted from the silver SUV, "Stand down!" Out stepped Major Curtis West, an old military friend. Dressed in a blazer but moving like a panther, he walked over and stood beside Raymond. "We got a problem here?" he asked coolly. The bikers suddenly weren't laughing. Curtis West wasn't just a friend. He was Lieutenant Colonel Curtis West, retired Special Forces. He'd served beside Raymond in Iraq. 2 tours, multiple classified missions. Curtis stood tall, his presence alone enough to shift the energy. His eyes scanned the bikers, identifying threats instinctively. A couple of them began to fidget. Raymond nodded at his old friend. "Good to see you. Wish it were under better circumstances," Curtis replied. The two didn't need to say much. Their military bond was forged in fire. They'd been outnumbered before, in worse places than this. The bikers were starting to whisper among themselves. "Who are these guys?" That's when Miss Jenkins, still recording, said loudly, "He's a war hero. Served this country more than all of you combined." Raymond didn't boast. He never did. But now it mattered. Because these men needed to understand, this wasn't just some black man at a gas station. This was a soldier, and they had picked the wrong battle. Chet, the original biker, looked uneasy. The new arrivals, Curtis, the camera, the gathering crowd, had shifted the power dynamic. One of the bikers muttered, "This ain't worth it, man." Chet barked, "We're not backing down from some vets." But even he sounded unsure. Curtis took one step forward. "You're outnumbered, outskilled, and you're being recorded. I suggest you leave with what pride you've got left." Raymond added quietly, "And before I file a report with the VFW, they won't like hearing veterans being harassed in public." That did it. One by one, the bikers mounted their Harleys. Engines roared to life, but this time, they weren't symbols of power. They were signs of retreat. As they rode off, Chet shot one last glare at Raymond, but there was no fire left in it, only humiliation. After the bikers left, the gas station fell into a quiet buzz. Locals clapped. Miss Jenkins offered Raymond a bottle of cold water, free of charge. "You handled that with grace," she said. "I'm too old to fight, but I'll never be too old to stand my ground." Curtis chuckled. "You always did have a way of ending trouble before it started." Raymond finally allowed himself a small smile. He looked around the lot. People were talking, eyes wide. Some had even started calling him a hero. But to Raymond, it wasn't about fame. It was about principle. You don't back down from bullies. Not in a war zone. Not on American soil. Not in a gas station parking lot. The video Ms. Jenkins recorded went viral overnight. "Veteran shuts down biker gang with a look" read one headline. The story spread, first locally, then nationally. Veterans groups reposted it. News stations called for interviews. Parents told their kids about the man who didn't flinch. Raymond declined most of the interviews. He wasn't looking for attention. But he did agree to speak at the local high school about courage, dignity, and what it meant to serve. Curtis stood in the back of the auditorium, arms folded, proud. Raymond ended his talk with a single line: "Real strength doesn't come from intimidation. It comes from knowing when not to use it." Raymond finally headed home, garden gloves on the passenger seat and soil still under his nails. The sun was setting again, just like the day before, but something had changed. He'd reminded the world, and maybe even himself, that no matter how loud hate gets, calm courage always speaks louder. His phone buzzed. A message from his granddaughter. "Grandpa, You're famous. Everyone's talking about you." He smiled and texted back, "Just doing what's right, sweetheart." As the road stretched ahead, Raymond felt peace. Not because the bullies backed off, but because the world had seen the truth. Real warriors don't seek fights, but they're never afraid to end one. If this moment shocked you, hit that like button. Drop A in the comments if you respect our veterans. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories where karma hits hard and justice wins every time.